So guys, we've had the sprint day for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and actually that was not as fantastic as we've seen some of the other Brazilian sprint races. But we'll get to the sprint shootout, and this was much more representative of what we kind of thought we'd see yesterday, didn't we? But for the odd thunderstorm that we got at the end of the qualifying session there. But for the sprint shootout, well, it was dramatic at the end of Q1, wasn't there, when we got the Ocon and Alonso incident. Ocon kind of understeered and went into the side of Alonso there. Ocon sort of tried to put the blame more on Alonso, understandable, but Alonso did leave a gap on the outside, and I think that was enough from him there, and it was probably just an unfortunate incident, that one, wasn't it there? But Logan Sargent and Alex Albon 20th and 19th. Albon saying that was just the pace that they had, unfortunately, and the Williams not been strong here as we thought they would be. And then Zhou Guanzu in 18th. Stroll was a surprise here because Aston Martin had been quick, especially yesterday. And yeah, quite a different qualifying session for both Aston Martins. Ocon finished that one in 16th. And then into the Q2, Fernando Alonso 15th. He couldn't set a time after the incident with Ocon, not enough time to repair his car. There was quite a lot of damage on that one, unfortunately for him. Valtteri Bottas, a decent qualifying for him in 14th, actually. That Alfa Romeo just not great around here, unfortunately, but a decent lap from him got him into P14. Pierre Gasly 13th. Again, Alpine struggling here. They've sort of dropped back a bit, haven't they, out of that top 10 sort of position where they were fighting for points a couple of races ago, and then they've sort of slipped back a little bit, haven't they now? Nico Hülkenberg 12th and 11th. Magnussen topped up a really decent performance from the Haas team. Would they be fighting for points potentially in the sprint race? We'll soon find out on that one. Oscar Piastri was 10th, and that would be disappointing because actually the McLaren was really good here this weekend. Sainz 9th, Daniel Ricciardo 8th, the Alpha Tauri showing strong performance again this weekend. Charles Leclerc 7th, Yuki Tsunoda was a star of qualifying for me in P6, a fantastic performance. Brees' more experienced teammate, a brilliant job from him. Lewis Hamilton in 5th, he was disappointing, as was George Russell in 4th. I kind of expected more of a fight from the Mercedes. It just seems like they've lost a bit, potentially because of just that one practice session and how had they gone the wrong way on setup potentially. Sergio Perez, a P3, much better from him, and he did that lap on used tyres, so an absolutely brilliant job from him to get into that 3rd place. And then it was Max Verstappen 2nd and Lando Norris on pole for the sprint race, and really where he should have been yesterday because that McLaren really had good pace, didn't it? So far this weekend, the car that really looked like it'll be the one taking the fight to the Red Bull. But then, yeah, in the sprint shootout, or into the sprint race, and yeah, a poor start from Norris, probably in the second phase of that start. He said he was just too conservative putting the power down, probably just hoping not to get too much wheel spin, but that kind of cost him. Max Verstappen onto the inside, and once he's in there, you're either going to end up on the gravel and onto the grass and out, or in a collision with Max Verstappen once he's in this inside. He's really going to run you out of track there. And then it was comfortable for Max Verstappen from there on, but Lando Norris did really well. He had really good pace in that McLaren, held on to that second. He actually dropped back behind George Russell, which was a neat move from Russell early on. The Mercedes both started well, didn't they, in the sprint race, but Max got into the lead and off he went. He didn't run away with it from second place Norris, did he actually? Comfortably ahead of everybody else, don't mind, but Norris kept him honest and actually did, despite dropping a place and finishing second, I think he actually did a brilliant job. He was the only guy to sort of keep pace with Verstappen throughout that race. But we did see some brilliant overtaking in the back, didn't we? Like I said, the Mercedes started brilliantly well. George Russell got up into second place, and really neat move on Lando, Norris up in the inside, and Norris dropping back a couple of places from first down to third. Bottas got a poor start, he dropped 3 places at the start there. But it was a brilliant move from Lewis Hamilton as well. Like I said, the Mercedes started well, and round the outside of Sergio Perez into turn 4, really late on the brakes, and he pulled that off a couple of times, didn't he? Hamilton, one in defending and position later on, we'd see. We also saw Fernando Alonso with a fantastic move on Pierre Gasly, nicked the position down into the inside of the last corner up to this long straight, didn't he? Eventually losing that position to Gasly at the end of that straight, but you don't really see overtaking down there at the bottom where he did that. Was a fantastic move from Alonso. But then again, on the outside of turn 4, Fernando Alonso, much like Lewis Hamilton, it was a brilliant move, and there was actually really good battle with Daniel Ricciardo. Perez did a nice move on Lewis Hamilton to get back up into third place once he dropped that spot there. But yeah, let's get on to the 3 good for this weekend. And Yuki Tsunoda's drive. He had a brilliant drive, didn't he? A nice move on Lewis Hamilton as well. A 6th place finish for him. An absolutely fantastic job. Beats his teammate in the race. Lando Norris, a brilliant P2 as well in the next up. He was the only person sort of close to Max Verstappen pace, wasn't he? And to finish just 4 seconds behind him, where Max was so dominant, I think was an absolutely brilliant job from him. Sergio Perez next up into P3, a much better race for him. Used the pace and the DRS of the Red Bull wisely, and some nice neat overtakings there. Onto the 3 bad. Well, it was Lewis Hamilton topped that one, wasn't he? He started 5th, made up a place, and then dropped back 3 places. His tyres really struggled, and he dropped back, didn't he? Rears were just worn, hammered at the end of that 24 lap stint. Doesn't bode well for them for the race tomorrow, but with possibly different track conditions, you never know how that might play out. But not a great finish from him. He's finished in 7th place and only just kept back Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo, didn't he, in the end? The Haas is the next up on the 3 bad. They went for the medium tyres. I think they were probably too conservative, because their tyre deg has been one of their biggest issues this season, hasn't it? And they didn't, where the soft sort of dropped off at the end. You thought they might be able to make up positions, but it just didn't work for them at all, did it? They were just miles off and dropped back horribly. Finished 18th and 16th in the end. And then next up is Valtteri Bottas, and he started 14th and ended up 19th. Again, his tyres just went off in a really poor race for him. But yeah, the sprint day finished with a Max Verstappen win. Looked pretty comfortable in race conditions, and even if Lando Norris sort of kept ahead of him at the start, I think he had enough pace in him to make that pass. And Brazil is a circuit where you can overtake, but it would have been nice to see some overtaking and battle and action for that first place. Just wasn't to be. Lando Norris finished in 2nd, a fantastic job from him. He's got a long job ahead of him tomorrow in the race, unfortunately. With him being so far back, I think it'll be harder for him to try and take the battle to Max for the race win tomorrow, which is what, again, we've seen with this sprint setup, isn't it? Where what happens in the sprint race really sort of gives away a lot of the race, a lot away for the main race, because we'll now know that the Mercedes are going to struggle horribly, not doing well on their tyres. The Ferraris were solid, but not fast, so not quick enough to do any damage to McLaren or Red Bull, but faster than the Mercedes, or better on the tyres than the 2 Mercedes. Verstappen had enough in hand to cover off Norris. Perez was much better actually, wasn't he? And that was a good thing of him, much closer to Verstappen this weekend. And yeah, so it's going to be a hard one, isn't it, for anyone to keep up or pass Verstappen. You never know what happened might at the first corner, and like I say, track conditions might change that. And yeah, it was a Perez P3, that was a podium. Russell finished 4th in the end. did well to keep back Leclerc in the end, to be honest, because Mercedes, again, were, like I said, were harder on their tyres than any of the guys at the top. But yeah, there we have it. Decent sprint race. There's always action here. The way the track is at Brazil really lends itself to some really good action down into that first corner, down into turn 4. Even like that last corner, isn't it, where we don't see overtaking Fernando Alonso nicking a place. Even in sort of that twisty middle section, isn't it, we've seen some overtaking there. Lando Norris, George Russell nicking the place of Lando Norris there. So if someone is a little bit of asleep, there's chances there as well. So a track where there's quite a few overtaking opportunities, which is not always the case in a lot of the circuits, isn't it? So tomorrow, again, I think we should see a brilliant race, because behind Max Verstappen, the battle with Leclerc, Yuki, Hamilton, Sainz, Ricciardo, Piastri, Alonso, Stroll, even Gasly, Ocon, even Alex Albon did brilliantly well, actually. Give shout out to him. He started at 19th, finished the race in 15th place in the end, made some places up, so a good job from him. But again, he's got a job in his hand tomorrow as well, haven't they? So yeah, that battle there was fantastic, and I don't see that being any different in the race tomorrow. So despite the sprint giving too much away for what will happen in the race, there's still a lot of action in and behind that first place, and with it being a much longer race, I think that we're looking at a 2-stop strategy. So there normally are better races than that, so there's potential fight for that third place on the podium, and also we will see Lando Norris come flying through the pack. So we've got, the way the grid is mixed up for Sunday, it's not all lost, as we still should get a brilliant race tomorrow. But yeah, a pretty decent sprint race, because the action behind Verstappen and Norris was really quite good, wasn't it? Especially with seeing the Mercedes dropping back of Lewis Hamilton. There was action from sort of P5 to P12. Was just, anyone could have been finished in any of them positions, which made for a really good sprint race. So yeah, they're my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always. I'll see you for the race review tomorrow. Thanks for watching.